Here he is, former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst, Mr. Frank Corrado. Got J-Pat for you today, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
We're all just playing out the string.
We're playing
now,
out
Frank.
the string here, Frank. More on that in a second. But first, you caught our interview with Cam Robinson yesterday on the topic of Elias Pettersson and the organization's preference that he stay here in Vancouver and train under their watchful eye this summer, take advantage of the resources that they have available to him. This is, as Patrick Alvin lays it out. Your thoughts on that?
Cam said he should not stay in Vancouver. I agree with Cam. He should not stay in Vancouver. He should get as far away from Vancouver, not as far away as possible, but he can't go the whole summer looking at the same four walls at the game rink and be in Vancouver. Like, he has to get out of that environment. Not that Vancouver is a toxic place or anything like that. Vancouver is beautiful. It's lovely in the summer. It's lovely all the time, for that matter. But he needs to just remove himself from the environment. And I think what he needs to do, what like Cam was talking about training with Hughes, that's fine. Like, rent a house in Aurora, Ontario, and go train with Gary Roberts and go be around Connor and Leon and all those guys. And look what Gabe Landeskog is doing now, coming back from his injury that no one thought he was going to play ever again. Like, that's where a guy like Elias Pettersson needs to be, in that training group every single day. He's removed out of the city in Vancouver. You want to talk about resources? That's where the resources are. And he is not under, team pressure when he's there. He's doing what's right for himself with the people that are the best in the world at what they do. So I think that's the play for him. Stockholm, I don't know. Like, you're far away, you're removed from it, sure. I'm sure there's great training groups that happen there, but like if I'm Vancouver, I'm saying you don't have to be here, but at least go to Gary and be there and be around those guys and take advantage of those resources. Like, really make the investment in yourself, and I think that goes a long way.
So you think it can adversely affect him because not enough of a change? It will feel like a continuum. Is that
it will feel like things are continuing for him. And I did the train in Vancouver for like a half summer thing. It almost feels like you're just doing like the season type workouts in the off season. And then once training camp hits, it's like, well, there's no grand finale to your summer training into your training camp. It's weird. Some guys like it. Some guys thrive on it. I said to myself, like, after that, I think I need to just not be at the team facility going forward when it comes to summer training. But yeah, I think the best thing for him is go make the investment with the best players in the world. Don't worry about being around the team facility. Like, a dumbbell is a dumbbell at the end of the day, but yeah. you can't replace being around the best players in the world and the guys that are preparing themselves the best in the world. And I think that's the investment that a guy like that needs to make, especially if we're still talking about, tendonitis or whatever's bothering him. Well, go see Gary Roberts. Like, go be a part of that.
What does it say to you, Frank, that the organization wants to monitor his summer training?
It tells me they don't trust him. They don't trust that he can take full autonomy over his summer training and push himself as hard as he needs to be pushed, and perhaps do the right thing. Like, you're never going to be able to control someone completely away from the rink, but I feel like, having him in their environment would feel more comfortable for them, but it's not going to be as beneficial to the player. So while they might think it's comfortable, maybe it's actually too comfortable for the player. Like, he's not pushing himself out of his own comfort zone. He's not learning anything new. He's not taking his summer training to a different place, like where it's never been before. Guys talk about that all the time, right? Like, they make a change in the summer and they go somewhere else and they say, this was the best summer I ever had. Like, I took my body to heights that I never thought possible. And then, like, they can have great seasons. I think that's the type of mindset and investment Pettersson needs to have this offseason. And I just think you are who you're surrounded by at times. And if he's just in a gym there by himself in Vancouver, or if there's a small group of guys kicking around, like it's hard to create the environment that he would get being around the most elite players in the game and what they do every single summer. And I think it would be quite an eye-opening experience for him to get there and see it and do it.
Frank, he's a 26-year-old guy with all the money in the world. Like, it seems crazy to think that he's not going to be given some liberty to go and, enjoy his life for a little while here in the early going. I'm just curious, in your mind, and maybe from your playing days, like, how did you approach the offseason? When did you get back on the ice? How much of the offseason for you was the work you did in the gym as opposed to trying to ramp things up to be ready for the start of a new season?
My off seasons were different than guys that were truly established, right? Like, I always felt like I couldn't take too much time off because I wanted to get some kind of advantage on my training. Plus, I was always the kind of guy, Jeff, that was, 6'1", 190, 195 pounds. And in the exit meeting, it was always, okay, bigger, faster, stronger next year. So I would go home and I say, well, I already took 2 weeks off. Did I get any bigger? Maybe in the wrong way. Did I get any faster? No. Did I get any stronger? No. Okay, so it's like I got to get going here. Like I'm in hashtag bulking season for lack of a better term. But I think for and it depends on what you've been through. In your season. Like if you're still nursing something, well then now there's a rehab component to your off season before you really get into moving the needle. So that needs to be taken into account. So if you think you're going to do the old, going to take a month off, don't even look at anything, and then get back into it, well, you probably can't do that. Like you have to slowly ramp up and start your rehab and do your treatments and then work yourself into an off season, and that makes your off season longer. But I think like if you're looking at it, as like a one size fits all, basically, like this would be your token model. It's like you take three, depending on how far you go in the playoffs. Let's say you miss the playoffs. You're taking 3.5, maybe 4 weeks off. Then you start your stage one of things where you start ramping up, get moving again. Then you get into your heavier portion of the summer before skating really ramps up. And then once you hit the ice, you're not necessarily lifting as heavy because you're mixing in your ice, and then you start, 2-3 days a week, then 4 days a week, 5 days a week. By the time you hit the end of August, you should feel like you're basically ready to go. Like I always wanted to feel like I was ready for camp on Labor Day, even though we still had 2 weeks to play, 2 weeks to train. But it really varies on everyone's situation. It's not like a one size fits all thing. And I think that brings us back to Pettersson, where you go to someone like Gary. I'm just using his as an example because all the best guys go there and it's, kind of become world renowned. But you go there and he's going to lay out a plan for you that is different than what the Canucks might lay out, might be better, probably is better. And then he's going to lay out a plan that is different than what Connor's doing, what Leon's doing, what Darnell Nurse is doing, what Landeskog is doing. And it's like, this is to get Elias Pettersson, the best version of him, before training camp. And I think that's important for him to have that like tailor-made thing by, the best people in the world, where he might not know. Like he might not know exactly what he needs. He doesn't know how many weeks he should take off. He doesn't know when phase 1 turns into phase 2. Might have a general idea based on what he's done, but at least you're going to get the answer, and it's probably going to be the right answer if you go to a place like that.
We're expecting an emotional night for Brock Boeser tonight at Rogers Arena. Has been here 9 seasons, 554 games, 29 more in the postseason for the Vancouver Canucks. Been a career Canuck and was really the first vestige of hope that the Canucks might be able to turn it around with a young core coming out of North Dakota. What's it like in the room and on the bench when you know that there's a heavy game and potentially some pretty special crowd reactions coming for one of your teammates?
That's an interesting one. I never played on... I never had a teammate that was going through that, but I played in the Ryan Smith last game, which I kind of saw went places on Twitter, which I appreciated in a sarcastic way. Because I told him that I met him. I told him when I met him, I was 10 years old playing at the Brick Tournament. I don't know why I felt compelled to tell him that as I was shaking his hand. Like, I'm sure he couldn't care less, but I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to tell him I met him when I was 10 at this Italian restaurant in Edmonton called Sorrentino's, because he walked in and he ordered a bunch of pizzas and we were all sitting there and we're 10 and we're like, holy, that's Ryan Smith. Anyways, and I got chirped so hard for that. You would have think like I personally offended various people by how hard I got chirped for that.
Who chirped you?
Everyone. Literally everyone. Anyways, but I do remember that game. I remember the lead up to that game, like the crowd reaction every time he stepped onto the ice, every time he touched the puck. Like you could hear there was a rise in the crowd, and the ovation that he got at the end of the game was pretty amazing to see, even from a visitor's point of view. So it's rare that we get games like this. It's somewhat unique. I don't necessarily like. Ryan Smith was Captain Canada, like that was on a different level. But I think like the Vancouver fans are very appreciative of the players and very appreciative of a guy like Brock Boeser and what he's done, what he's meant here. And think about Boeser's journey, like comes into the league, kind of sets the league on fire his first year. I remember him putting a hat trick up on us when I played for Pittsburgh on a Saturday night. Like that was a big night. He arrived right away. And went through a lot of hard times, right? Like, away from the rink, there was, some sadness, some tragedy that followed him. And he pushed through, and he was very dedicated, and he was a great Vancouver Canuck. And it is truly a shame if this is it, like the way it's going to end. The season the Canucks had, the way the whole trade deadline kind of shook out, the comments afterwards, about not getting good enough offers. Brock Boeser deserved better than that, considering what he put into this organization over his time here.
It's an interesting dynamic because he's still under contract. The organization hasn't come out and said, we're not bringing him back. So in the eyes of the Vancouver Canucks, like, I don't think they're going to do anything to mark the night. But I asked this question, Frank, does Rick Tocchet have a role in this? And what does it mean to a player if Rick Tocchet puts him out there for the opening face-off so that he gets to be announced, one last time as one of the starters for the Vancouver Canucks?
I think that's a no-brainer. And Tocchet's like, he's such a classy guy. He gets it. Like, he would understand the whole dynamic. You know what I mean? Like, there's these types of moments, they don't really happen. Like, they're not commonplace occurrences. So anytime, like, he's kind of holding the keys, really, to how cool of a moment this could be for the fans and for Brock. So it's a no-brainer. I don't think you would even
Honestly,
think twice about it.
Most in it, with the exception of Mike Babcock, and everyone remembers the Modano story in Detroit, I think most coaches get this.
Yeah.
The occasional one, I think, maybe needs some reminding from somebody on the staff because they're focused on something else. But I think when brought to the attention of a head coach, because they're fans just like us, right? They understand the dynamic between the players, the participants on the ice.
Come on, Matt. You're coaching to win. You got to get the hard matchup right off the opening face-off.
18,000 people.
Right?
So,
like,
no.
Remember, Babs did it to Spezza, too. Spezza came to play for the Leafs.
That's right.
And his first game at home,
and
he
look at the shit
scratched
he got
him.
for
He had
Yeah.
bought the suite. He had hundreds of people at the game. And I can't remember, was it Drew Shore, Devon Shore? One of the Shores. He was like, need Shore in the lineup because I need the penalty killer. It's like, dude, you got guys that can penalty kill, man. Anyways,
but
that
look
was
how he got crucified for that, right, Frank? Like,
he deserved
everybody.
to.
Exactly. So I think coaches are attuned
Is
to
it
this.
worth it? Like, you think that was
No,
worth
exactly.
it for him? No,
Exactly.
Like, come on. But like,
I would
it
think
brings
he
me-
not only opens the game, but I would bet if there's a face-off late in the game, Tocchet sends him out for that as well, so that there can be a moment.
I totally agree. And Brock Boeser's been nothing but a good soldier for the team. Like, let him have his moment.
Right.
Let the fans have their moment. And there's just nothing to gain from it. And how do you feel afterwards if you take it away? Like, doesn't that feel icky afterwards?
Exactly.
Like, who wants to live with that?
Boeser strikes me as the type of guy that, if you don't get along with Brock Boeser, it's probably because of the guy in the mirror.
Oh, and
not because
Boeser's
of
coming.
Brock.
Like, when he returns to Vancouver next year, like, he's putting up a hat trick. First game.
Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Is there any doubt?
Especially
Of,
against you and the Penguins,
that
Frankie. That's where he feasted.
Oh, dude, he saw me coming from a mile away. Like, I went no bucket in warm up too. And he's like, that guy is a pigeon, and I will be putting up a hat trick tonight.
But of course, the hat trick you mentioned there, and it was on Hockey Night. And that
remember.
was Matt Murray with he got lucky.
He got
right?
Oh, right.
He got lucky.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yes, Murr did say that.
Yeah. Who's
it was
lucky now,
lucky
Matt?
hat trick.
Do you have a Pat O'Neill story? It's Patty's last game here as well as equipment manager.
I just want to say Patty is unbelievable. Like, what an amazing guy. He treats everyone so well, goes the extra mile for all his guys. Really makes you feel comfortable around the room, around the team. Like, you almost don't know what to say about a guy like Patty, but he was really tremendous. Right from the moment you kind of step in as an 18-year-old, your first training camp always makes you feel like you're welcome and you belong, and made it feel, special. No matter how long you were around, that you were, for however long it was, if it was just training camp or if it was a little portion of the regular season, you were an NHLer. And Patty really treated you that way. And I have such an appreciation for the time and the work that he puts in, and how he treats everyone so in such a first-class way.
Lastly here, buddy, I'm going to need you to explain on behalf of your NHLPA brethren here. Quinn Hughes can set the franchise mark, points by a defenseman with a single point tonight, breaking Edler's record. He's the reigning Norris Trophy winner. We have talked about it all season long. How many players in the league, if any, are more valuable to their team than Quinn Hughes this year? And yet the player survey, 72% vote Cale Makar the best defenseman in the league. Only 7.5% vote for Quinn. Make that make sense for me, Frank.
Okay. The players poll is a couple things. There's some players who really care about it and value it. There's some players that it's just an obligation that they have to fill it out. And there's probably some players that don't even fill it out because guys are just aloof and don't care about certain things. Like, this is the year. I think Makar is going to win the Norris. Like, he's had an unbelievable year. 30 goals, all that kind of speaks for itself. I think if you look at it, you say, well, Quinn Hughes is second. He probably should be second this year. It's just, overwhelming majority voted for Cale Makar. And I think that's not a slight to Quinn in any way, shape, or form. That's just Cale Makar was a dominant force this year, and Quinn Hughes missed some time. So there's also guys that may not have played against him, depending on the way the schedule shook out. And you also have to keep in mind with the player poll, there's a lot of NHL players that get deeply entrenched in opinions. Like the goalie one is fascinating for me. It's like, Vasilevsky was 1, Shesterkin was 2, Hellebuck was 3. Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina, and he could win the Hart. Like, I wouldn't put it past the voters. And it's like the players say he's the third best goalie. Why? Well, like Vasilevsky, we know what he's about. Shesterkin, we know what he's about. I mean, you can get deeper into the technical aspect of all three goaltenders. And but yeah, I think sometimes with this player poll, there's just opinions that become deeply entrenched. I remember playing for Toronto. You guys watch The Office, right? You know the show The Office? They had that debate on whether Hilary Swank was hot or not. Do you remember this? And it was, I think, the 15-16 season. We had a debate. If you were picking first overall again, who would you have chosen, McKinnon or Barkov? And this was when McKinnon was hadn't really, he hadn't popped yet. He hadn't had the massive year yet. And Barkov was really good, underrated at the time. It's half the team was McKinnon, half the team was Barkov. And the argument would just kind of reignite at certain portions of the season. And it's guys just got more and more entrenched in their opinion. So, I mean, that's part of the player poll, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, some voting for buddies, some allegiance to teammates or past or present. I get it. Frank, marvelous stuff. Next week, we'll have the Stanley Cup playoffs on, and we'll have heard from the Vancouver Canucks in postmortem. So looking forward to that hit already. Have yourself a terrific 7 days.
All right, fellas. Have a good one.